Alright guys, so I wanted to talk to you about your next assignment, which is the webography. I didn't want to send it to you over the weekend since you were working on your research proposal. But if you log into your Blackboard underneath assignments, you will find the prompt for the webography at the very bottom. This is once again a group project, and there are 2 drafts of this that are due. The first one is due this Friday coming up. So let's go over the prompt. The purpose of a webography, many of you have probably done an annotated bibliography. Hopefully in high school you've done this, or last semester perhaps. I'm not really sure if you did it in 103 or not. But the purpose is, after deciding upon a research question, together you will collect relevant sources. Your group will create a webography, which is an online annotated bibliography, to inform others on your research topic. Your annotations will summarize the source's information, analyze the source's usefulness, and evaluate the source's credibility. So essentially you're creating an annotated bibliography which discusses and summarizes the source, analyzes it, and evaluates it, but you're creating it via a website so that people who are researching your topic in general, who might be actually doing their own research paper or just might be interested in the topic, would be able to look at your site and see what some good sources would be for them to look at. Organization and development. So in developing your research, your group's completed webography will consist of at least 25 to 30 sources. So that's going to be around 6 to 8 sources per person. Each group member then is required to include the following in his 6 to 8 individual sources: 1 book, 1 primary source, 1 popular source, so that would be from like a website, that could be from a magazine, doesn't really matter, and 2 articles from academic or professional journals. So if you know how to do your math, 1 book, 1 primary source, 1 popular source, and 2 articles does not equal 6 to 8, so you'll have to double up on some of those, but the gist is that you guys will be able to have a wide basis of different kinds of sources. I talked to some of you in class today about this. Consider what you're actually looking for when you're looking at these sources. So, for example, when you're looking at the academic or professional journals, you're going to be looking at whatever your topic is in an academic scope. So if your topic is social media, you're probably going to have to broaden it out just a little bit, depending on what you're looking at. If you're talking at books, yes, books are still current, but usually once they, are printed and put on the shelf, they're a little bit out of date. So one of the things that you could discuss with books is the historical background. When you're talking about your popular sources, whether it's a magazine or a website or a blog, doesn't really matter. Those will be more current, and they will probably be able to match the actual scope of your research paper a little bit better. So once again, if you're talking about social media, and cyberbullying, for instance, you'll probably be able to find some very specific websites or magazine articles that discuss that. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about what sorts of things that you'll be searching for each source, because it's going to be different, meaning your search terms for a book are going to be different than your search terms for a website. Okay, so as a group, you will compile these sources to create 1 webography. This will serve to complete your showcase presentation and your individual research paper. So I really want to stress to you that this is important. You're going to be doing this research for the next, 9 weeks. Your actual presentation is on March 31st, and then your research paper is at the end. So you really want to be putting in a lot of the time and legwork now so that it'll pay off in the end. So that's how you're going to develop your research. When you're organizing your research into the webography, you're going to go to your student Gmail account, which I'll show you how to do in a minute, create a site, and then utilize the Google Sites template, which is listed down below. Yes, I noticed that this is misspelled. The person who made this accidentally obviously transposed the A and the P, but you do need to search for it in that way because that's the way it's saved. Your webography, so your website with your annotated bibliography, is going to have 4 main categories represented on 4 different pages of your Google site. So you'll have your home page, your general information, your annotated bibliography, and your evaluation set criteria. So your home page is just going to be the title of your webography and a welcome message to your audience. Once again, remember that this is going to be people who are just interested in searching your topic. Your general information page is going to have an introduction to the topic, perhaps why you guys chose it, what your rationale is for doing the research, why it interests you. And you're also going to include an abstract. So that will be a summary of your research presentation at the end. So you're not really going to worry about that yet until you've compiled all of your research. Your annotated bibliography is going to have one of these entries for each of your 25 to 30 sources. So for each of your sources, it'll be about 50 to 100 words, including an objective summary of the source's info, an analysis of the source's usefulness, so effective, ineffective, what reasons do you think you're going to use it, how are you going to use it in your paper, is it going to be supportive, is it going to be your contradictory argument, think about those sorts of things. And then you're going to have some sort of evaluative symbol of each source's credibility. So that's going to be, for example, 4 out of 5 stars or 6 out of 8 chili peppers or whatever it is. It's going to be some sort of symbol for your source's credibility. And then your last page is going to actually talk about your set criteria. So in the annotated bibliography where you have this symbol, the symbol is going to be linked down to this page that explains what that symbol means. So it's going to be a descriptive breakdown of the group's set criteria used to evaluate the source's credibility. So I'll talk about that in a little bit more detail in just a minute because I've kind of set something up to help you guys, but hopefully that's clear so far. In regard to the due dates, there are two. Your first draft is due Monday, March 7th. Your second draft is due Friday, April 4th, so you do have about a month in between. For your first draft, you'll have to have your home page completed. You'll have to have your evaluation criteria completed in order to do your annotations. And then you'll need to have 2 annotated sources per group member. And then final draft, you'll need to include your introduction, your abstract, and the completion of all of your annotated sources, so that'll be your 25 to 30. Once again, consider your Webography a tool that your group and others can utilize for research. Consequently, you should address a general audience who is interested in your group's topic, and the Webography is worth about 50 points. So that's what the actual Webography is. Let's look at the evaluation criteria set. So this is a template that we have set up to get you started with thinking about the most important aspects that you should look into when you're looking at a source. So that includes the author's integrity or credibility, the publisher, the currency or relevance, the evidence and or the sources, so who are they quoting, the objectivity, we talked about this in class today, do they have a lot of bias, are there advertisements that are kind of skewing their opinion, the coverage, is it just a single point or are they kind of discussing all sides of the argument and bringing those up, and the organization, so how easy is it to understand, is there a natural flow. What you and your group are going to do is together I want you to fill out this chart completely. So if you were to look at a source and say, okay, this source gets a 4 for author's integrity, what would this 4 look like? What does it mean to get a 4? What does it mean to get a 3 in evidence? What does it mean to get a 5 in coverage? So think about those things. With your group, I want you to actually fill this out. So that means whoever the coordinators are for the Webography, you will need to set up a time and a place where you and your group can meet, whether it is in person, which I would encourage, whether it is a time where you guys will all meet on Google Drive or Google Hangout, or a time that you guys can Skype. You need to make sure that you guys can get together and fill out this chart first and foremost. This is going to assure that you guys are choosing the correct kind of sources, and it's going to really guide you in the sources that you choose. For example, you might find an article that gets a 6 in publisher, currency, sources, objectivity, coverage, and organization, but maybe that source also gets a 1 in author integrity. So that's a question that you guys will need to kind of discuss together. What does that mean if you get a 6 in everything and a 1 in another? Is there some sort of overall score that you can give them? Is one thing more important than the other? Each of those is important when developing your Webography. So with that being said, let's kind of take a look at what we would do for creating the webography. Also keep in mind that that document for the webography criteria set can be found under Documents on Blackboard. So you'll log into your student email and go to Sites. And once you get there, you're going to create a site. Those of you who've done your ePortfolio last semester in 103, you'll be able to remember how to do this. Browse the gallery for more, and you'll see it is the number, oh, this time it's second. It's the second one that will pop up, second for me. If it doesn't pop up for you, you can just search up in here what it is. So I'm going to click that. And then I would select this for my template. I'm not actually going to do it because I already have one set up, but then you would select it and click Create. Here is my sample one. So you'll see that I've set everything up for you with this. Once again, you can click on all of these. So here's our home page. This is our general information. And we've put in exactly what you need to do for each of these: introduction, abstract. Here's the sources information. Here's where you would list all of your sources. So source 1, our annotation, initials of the source, and once again our evaluation, source, source, source. You'll notice I'll value annotation, 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 and your evaluative tool, evaluative tool, evaluative tool. And that goes on for all of your 25 to 30 sources. You'll also notice that right here it says initials of the source finder. It's really important that you include this, and I would even bold it or make it a separate color in your annotations for me to keep track of who in your group has actually put their sources in here. Okay, so you'll want to do that so that you can make sure that you're getting credit, whereas we don't want one person to be finding 30 sources. I want to be able to see who has found each of these sources. So once again, if I click on one of these pages, hopefully you'll remember this from your ePortfolio. And if I click on Edit, I'll be able to edit the page. So I can put in my actual introduction to the topic. Or I can add the title, which is a really good idea. You can leave the title general information, but you can also be creative about X, Y, and Z. It's up to you, whatever you want to do. And then we'll save that one more time. So keep this in mind that this will be on one of your group members' actual emails. It'll be hooked to one of your group members' Google Sites. So I suggest I know a lot of you are storing your information on the drive, which I suggested that you upload all of those sources onto the drive just in case something happens. You don't want one person to be responsible for everything. You can manage the subscriptions and by clicking sharing and permissions, I believe. And have it set up so that other people can edit it other than just that one individual person. We can work on that in class on Wednesday coming up. But so for class on Wednesday, what you need to have done is bring a copy of your evaluative criteria filled out. This can be either handwritten or typed up, but it does need to be typed up by Friday. But make sure that this is actually filled out so that you can start working on your research in class. We want to make sure that you are, ahead of the game going into spring break. So you need to have those 2 sources done by Friday. I suggest moving forward that each of you gets 2 sources per week so that you're not really feeling under pressure. But moving forward, once again, by Wednesday, make sure that this is done and ready to go. We can talk more about it in class, about what the webography is. Make sure that your group members watch this video. Don't require just one person. Thank you. Bye-bye.